I still hear their hands against the metal, that constant scratching. Even now, when everything else is silent, that sound echoes inside my head like nails on my skull. It started 3 nights ago. I was part of the maintenance crew for the old Halberg Tower, an abandoned office building on the edge of town. They were planning to renovate it, so they sent us in to check the structure. I remember laughing with the others, joking about ghosts and rats, trying to ignore the way the air felt thick, like something was rotting inside the walls. There were 5 of us that night: me, Luis, Marin, Todd, and the supervisor, Mr. Crane. We entered just before sunset, flashlights cutting through the dust. The elevator was dead, so we took the stairs, floor by floor. The deeper we went, the colder it got. Not the kind of cold that bites your skin. No, this one felt alive. Like the air itself was breathing slowly around us. Somewhere around the 12th floor, we found the first door that wouldn't open. It looked melted shut, like the hinges had fused into the frame. Todd joked about kicking it down, but Crane stopped him, said we'd come back later. We never did. The generator room was supposed to be on the 15th floor, but when we got there, the numbers on the wall didn't make sense anymore. I swear the hallway stretched longer than it should have. We kept walking, but the stairs back down were gone, just gone. Luis thought we were disoriented. He marked the wall with a piece of chalk, a bright white X. We kept moving. 10 minutes later, we found the same mark, same spot, same peeling wallpaper. That's when Marin started to cry. Then came the smell. It wasn't just decay, it was sweet, like something dead trying to pretend it was alive again. The lights flickered once, and in that brief flash, I saw hands, not from the shadows, inside the walls, pressing, writhing, clawing to get out. Crane said we were hallucinating. But when we heard the first scream from below us, echoing up the stairwell, we ran. The door to the lobby was gone, only a metal fence now, and hands on the other side, reaching. They weren't trying to get in. They were trying to stop us from leaving. They learned our names before we did. After the fence, the building stopped pretending to be empty. It whispered. Not with a voice like a radio or a person, more like paper folding itself, like a throat clearing inside the plaster. At first, it was only echoes, a footstep that matched mine one stair behind, a laugh that finished the joke I hadn't yet made. Then the walls began to answer us by name. Luis, it sighed, long and wet. Marin. The sound slid along the pipes and folded into the carpet, and it knew the pitch of our fear. We huddled in what used to be the lobby, potted plastic plants caked in dust, reception desks toppled like fallen ribs. The windows were black, and beyond them I could see movement, a mass of shadow palm silhouettes pressing at metal mesh, hands flattening like insects against glass. One by one, the others started to vanish. Todd slipped out of sight while trying to pry loose a grate. We only heard the scrape of metal, and then nothing. Luis's chalk X smeared itself into the plaster, like someone rubbing a hand through it. That night, I woke with his name on my tongue and crusted blood on my knuckles from a fight I didn't remember. The contagion was not just flesh, it crawled along sound. At first it mimicked the soft clink of a tool, Crane's cough, and we believed the comfort of normality until the copy turned cruel. I heard Crane call my name from down the corridor, and when I ran to him, the corridor opened into a room full of mirrors. My reflection turned and smiled before I did, and every mirror held a different version of my face. Thinner, older, mouths sewn shut. Behind me, something breathed into my ear and told me a secret I had never told anyone. It tasted like pennies and old oranges. I still cannot say the secret aloud without the building rearranging its walls into a laugh. Marin stopped sleeping. She sat with her back to the wall and counted the breaths between knocks. "They don't want us to go," she whispered, and that made sense until the day she tried the door and found it opening outward into a long hallway that led directly back into the generator room, like a snake eating its own tail. We were walking in loops that the building drew for us, corridors folding, stairwells vanishing, and each loop took someone different. The worst part was the way the dead learned to imitate the living. At dusk, a voice would call from the staircase, one of us calling for help. When we answered, a silhouette would press against the banister, the shape of a hand, the shimmer of a jacket. We would run to pull them free, but our fingers closed on air. The voice would stop, replaced by a wet, patient clicking, like nails on tile. When Luis finally screamed, it was not because he was taken. It was because he opened his own palm and found, stitched into the muscle, a fistful of tiny beating things, nails, teeth, shadows, that pulsed like trapped hearts. He begged us to cut them out. We could not. He begged us to leave him behind. We did not. Now the door at the end of the corridor groaned. Something heavy was moving on the other side. It had a way of knocking that matched the rhythm of a heartbeat, slow, deliberate, and it knew the cadence of my own blood. I pressed my ear to the wood. It pressed back. The knocking changed when the sun fell. It went from a patient drum to an insistence that sounded like someone sobbing inside wood. The rhythm matched my pulse, and every time I tried to slow my breathing, it sped up as if the building measured me and laughed. The corridor stretched thin and long, lit by a single hanging bulb that hummed like an insect with a dying throat. The air reeked now of iron and laundry soap, like someone had dressed the dead in clean shirts. We pushed toward the sound. The three of us, Marin, Crane, and I, pressed our shoulders against the door at the end of the hall. It did not open. Instead, the screws turned themselves, one by one, with a sound like teeth grinding. Through the crack came voices, not the voices of the living, but the sound of everyone we had loved and lost, layered and wet, calling our names and asking us to come home. I think that was the trap. We thought we could save each other by opening the last door. The building wanted something else. Marin put her fingers in mine. They felt thin, like torn paper. Crane muttered about reason and procedure, old habits anchoring him to a job he could no longer do. "Listen," he said. "We count to 3. We kick. We run." It was more ritual than plan. I remember thinking it would be enough because ritual had kept me sane until that moment. On 3, the hinges screamed. The door fell inward into a room that should not have fit in the hall. A nursery stitched from plaster and corrugated metal, a ceiling full of little hands. The floor was a carpet of faces, each with its mouth open, gumming the dust. In the center, a shape curled, Luis, or what had been him, folded as if asleep, eyes empty pits with the reflection of our flashlights like 2 gulls trapped on black water. He looked like he was waiting. We stepped forward like believers approaching an altar. The air tasted of copper and wet cloth. I knelt beside Luis and touched his cheek. It came away sticky with wallpaper paste. He reached for me, and for a second his fingers were warm. Then they weren't. They were thin, paper-cut fingers, and where his palm should have been, there opened a hole that inhaled sound. I heard Crane scream and tried to pull him back, but the room bent, walls breathing inward like a lung, and the exit folded away. Something taught us to beg. It taught us to bargain by mimicking voices we trusted. I heard my mother call my childhood nickname, and for a moment felt my chest unclench, remembered dinners that never happened in this building. Then the voices rearranged into something else. Lists, ledgers, names. The building was cataloging us, stitching our names into its bones. Marin went first. She walked toward the window and pressed her forehead to the glass, as if reading a line written on the other side. Her silhouette flattened against the cold, and then with a sound like pages turning, she slid into the fence. Not through it, but into the memory of the fence. And the hands outside closed around her like they were closing on a page of a book. Crane tried to stay. He jabbed with a screwdriver and punched at the plaster. The thing that took him did not rip him away. It rewrote him. When he turned, his eyes were the same color as the bulbs, and he smiled with a mouth that did not belong to him. He told me, gently, that the building needed my voice. He showed me my name, carved into a strip of wallpaper like a receipt. I had a choice: leave and maybe survive, or stay and keep the sound from spilling out. Maybe there was no choice at all. I can't tell you which hand pushed me, or whether I stepped willingly. All I know is the last thing I felt was the building folding me into a wall, my ribs flattening, my blood drying into the plaster like varnish. They taught me how to listen after that. I learned to count the knocks and to make them answer, to call a name with the right inflection so someone will come. If you come to Halberg Tower, the light will be on. You'll hear the scratch of nails and wonder if someone is trapped in there. You might think you can help. You might think you can get out. We are already on the other side. I am the knocking.
subscribe to Horror Story Bar.